And it was August 28th of 2019 that I had a plan to take my life. And I knew what I was going to do, I knew how I was going to do it. And I explained it to people like I was just in this dark tunnel and the light was fading and I thought there was no hope.
But for Haley DeGrieve, that glimmer of hope would ignite a new light, a new fire, a way to use her life in a way she could have never imagined. She shows us how as she takes us to the heart of her story.
Yes, so my name is Haley DeGrieve, and I am the current president and founder of the Gray Matters Collective.
How did you get started in this? Was there a defining moment in your life that changed everything?
Yes, absolutely. For me, growing up, I didn't know that I was struggling with mental health issues. I thought that being depressed and anxious every day was normal. When I went to middle school and high school, I was bullied pretty bad, and that was the first time that I really ever experienced trauma, what I know now to be trauma. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought that everyone was bullied that way, and I thought that it was normal. And, you know, from the age of 12 and 13, struggling with self-harm, struggling with depressed thoughts, struggling with suicidal thoughts at such a young age, it didn't occur to me that this was something that was larger than myself until one of my best friends attempted to take her life at the age of 12. And I remember thinking, we're so young to be going through this, but it kind of continued throughout my life, and it wasn't until I went to college that there were additional stressors put on me. There were different expectations. It was the first time where I was really trying to manage and battle this on my own. And it was August 28th of 2019 that I had a plan to take my life. And I knew what I was going to do, I knew how I was going to do it. And I explained it to people like I was just in this dark tunnel and the light was fading and I thought there was no hope, but I know now that I just couldn't see it. And so it was in that moment that I was beginning to attempt suicide that someone reached out to me. It was a random check-in, and it was a 2-minute phone call that saved my life.
Years would pass, the ups and downs of everyday life, but now she had a support system to help and was about to build a new system to help others just like her.
And when I was in college, there was a defining moment where I was in my coffee shop and I was listening to other people around me talk about what they were going through with suicidal thoughts, and very similar situations, very similar thought processes that I were going through at the time. And so for me, it was, if I'm not the only one going through this and other people are experiencing this, why are we not just talking about it and actively making change, right? Because so many people talk, but there isn't a whole lot of action in today's world. And so within 5 weeks, we got 60 students together, and what then was born was the Gray Matters Collective. And this movement was completely grassroots. It was student-led and still is student-led. But it was just people talking about it. And that broke a lot of barriers for where society was at that time, and still today we're continuing to try to push that message to the forefront every single day. The Gray Matters Collective represents hope. I really think that's what it comes down to, is a safe place for people to come together to recognize that you are not alone in this. And no matter where you are on your mental health journey, you don't have to do it alone. And to also understand too that other people's stories, sharing, talking about it, brings light into all the dark places. And if we can continue to do that, then we can create a world where maybe people don't have to feel so alone and don't feel like they have to talk about it. And we get rid of that shame and the stigma, but we also work actively together to create solid solutions so that no one ever has to think about ending their life ever again. That's the world that we're trying to create.
She understands the reality that no matter how hard she works, not everyone can be saved. It was a loss so close to her heart that hurt the most.
There was one student that actually was in the beginning with us for the Gray Matters Collective and found out about a year ago that she had died by suicide. And that to me hit me pretty hard because it was someone that I knew. I didn't know her super well, but she was in the very beginning poster campaign that we had with our movement, and it just broke my heart. And with that, about a few months later, I had lost 2 other friends to suicide within a week of each other. And it was hard because I felt like here I am trying to advocate and trying to learn, and I didn't see the signs from the people around me. But it also made me realize too that there's nothing I can do now. What I can do is to use my voice to help their voice because they aren't able to advocate for themselves anymore. And so when we talk about being the voice for the people who can't speak anymore, it's really about that, is to share their story so that in hopes that it can help someone else understand that that never has to be the solution and that there is hope and there are resources available to connect people in that way.
The quiet girl who doubted herself for so many years, who did not think she would even live to walk across the stage on graduation day, suddenly found herself on a different kind of stage. In a way, channeling those voices of friends lost, those stories of grief, but also of hope in ways she never imagined, being there to share successes and failures.
Is it similar to other setbacks that all of us face where it knocks us down for a day or two and then we either get mad or energized or determined to turn that into something that helps somebody else?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a process with grief and it looks different for everyone, but even grief in other ways too. You might lose someone to death. You might lose someone just who's still alive, but they're not in your life anymore, and that can be really hard. When we talk about boundaries with mental health, sometimes that includes distancing yourself from people who maybe don't help your mental health anymore. And I've seen that in my own life. But at the end of the day, for me, you do have to do what's best for your brain because, right, just as you have a brain, you have mental health, just as you have a body, you have physical health. And so it's really about mental hygiene. But everyone's process with that looks different. And so for me, trying to do the best that I can every day, but surround myself with the best people possible, that does give you a source of energy and it does give you a source of hope because it makes you realize that if I've survived 100% of my worst days, then I can continue to do that and continue to fight back. You know, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, whatever mental health problem you're going through, it hits, but you can hit back. You can be a warrior in this, but don't do it alone.
And the one-on-one moments of healing, tucked away in a coffee shop, an empty classroom, or park bench.
Hit me with a story of someone that you were talking to and helping, and you saw something change in their eyes, in their face, in their life.
Yeah, yes. There was one young girl who came to one of our events that we have every month called the You Matter series, and she came in and I could tell that she was struggling. She looked like she was on the verge of tears, and so she came up to me after the event and asked if she could talk, and so we just pulled a seat aside in the room and we started talking, and she started crying, and she just kept talking about feeling so hopeless, and she felt like things were never going to change. And there was a moment where I told her, you know, things might not ever change and things might not ever get better, but you can get better. And it was that moment where she just kind of realized, it's like she kind of took a breath and she's like, yeah, you're right. Maybe the circumstance, maybe the environment, maybe what I'm going through might not change, but I can change and I can get to the resources that can help me and find that strength within myself. Someone who I admire very much in my life once told me that yes, you can always reach out, but don't forget to reach in because you have the strength within you and you are capable. And it was that moment that I think her and I shared together where she realized she was capable and she could do this. And there's something so empowering about that, and there's something that brings so much healing in those moments.
Simple words and sayings printed on a card, a t-shirt, a bracelet, that may be the perfect message at just the right moment.
It's amazing to me how a t-shirt can spark a conversation that can lead to saving someone's life. I've heard about those stories time and time again with not even just our shirts, but other mental health shirts where someone walks into a grocery store that has a shirt that says your life is important, and it strikes up a conversation because someone will see that and say, oh my gosh, wow, I needed that today. You have no idea how much I needed that today. Or maybe it's a shirt that says you are worthy, or a shirt that says, don't forget to love yourself too. Those kinds of messages can ripple out and can affect people. And even, we create these bracelets, and one of them says prioritize mental health. And we have someone who has told us time and time again that those bracelets have kept that person from self-harming. And so it's little things that are just those reminders that even when it does feel helpless, those little tiny reminders, they're just a step along the way. It's just an extra bit of hope, and when you add all those up together, it does help you get through some of the darkest days because it's just a little bit of light. And that little pinhole of light can ripple out and can illuminate all the dark spaces.
And that pinhole of hope is getting bigger and bigger, shining more light on more dark places every single day.
And you're growing this thing too. You're now expanding, as you mentioned, into high schools and potentially more college campuses. How does this work?
Yes, so really we will start a chapter in any school. We actually have a chapter in an elementary and a middle school, and we have a lot of chapters in high schools and colleges, kind of in the local Midwest area, but just a few weeks ago I was in Nevada, and we've gotten a few emails from some schools in Nevada who are interested. We've gotten some emails already about some schools in Texas who are interested because I'm going to speak there in June. So it's amazing how much this message has rippled, but that's really the power of the collective, is when you have people come together and there's a sense of shared community and there's a sense of empowerment with that we're able to bring that strength in numbers, and it brings a sense of courage that you wouldn't have without that, because one voice alone, it can reach so far, but when you have a multitude of voices, that ripples and that echoes. And so we're trying to echo out that message, and really the goal is to be in any state, every state at some point, and maybe even globally, who knows, right? But it's all about the message. It's really, for me, it's not about me. I always say it's about us. And that right there is what we're all about.
If you ever need hope, help, healing for you or a friend, call this number or look up Gray Matters and find a chapter near you.